Actually, the Brexit on the financial market should be pushed forward with a further step in June, but now the EU Commission is extending its deadline for British and European financial service providers. Banks and money managers can continue to process their transactions via so-called clearing houses in Great Britain. On Tuesday, the EU Commission extended an exemption rule that allows financial institutions to continue operating in the EU after Brexit. Clearing houses are particularly located in the financial capital of London. For example, the London Stock Exchange, the LSE, has its own clearing house. For example, they settle transactions in securities between buyers and sellers and provide a buffer against risk if one of the parties cannot fulfill their part of the purchase contract. The exemption for financial service providers would actually have expired at the end of June, but is now valid until June 2025. During this time, the EU should expand its own clearing capacities and corresponding supervision in order to reduce its dependence on institutions from third countries. Central clearing houses play an important role in containing risks in the financial system, Commissioner Merit McGuinness said in a statement. The EU Commission also launched a public consultation on how to expand the clearing system and intends to present concrete proposals in the second half of 2022. Parallel to the EU Commission's decision, Deutsche Börse's clearing house, Eurex Clearing, published record figures for the clearing of over-the-counter euro transactions in January. The average volume of interest rate derivatives traded over the counter grew to 276 billion euros. According to estimates by the Bloomberg news agency, however, this is only a fraction of the volumes processed by clearing houses in London. And they can be lucky with the pandemic, otherwise the EU would have been more able to not to extend this one again. Poland relies on tax cuts to fight inflation. The measures also attract numerous visitors from neighboring Czech Republic because the prices had recently risen there. After the suspension of VAT on many groceries in Poland, more and more Czechs are flocking to the supermarkets in the neighboring country. Prague newspapers spoke on Tuesday of shopping madness or even a small migration of peoples. In Poland, staple foods such as bread, meat and dairy products have been exempt from VAT since February 1st. The regulation applies for a period of 6 months. The government in Warsaw reacted to the sharp rise in inflation with a temporary reduction in VAT. In December, the inflation rate was 8.6% compared to the same period last year. It's worth it for almost everything, a consumer from the Czech Republic from the border town of Český Těšín told the newspaper MF Dnes in front of a supermarket in Szczecin in Poland. Many Czech shopping tourists used the opportunity to fill up their cars. Poland has temporarily reduced fuel tax from 23 to 8%. In the retail sector in the Czech border region, there are already complaints about massive sale losses. People only buy half a loaf or a few rolls from us, a saleswoman from Eastern Petrovice I Karvine told Blesk newspaper. In the trial of the Islamist terrorist attacks in Paris in 2015, the main defendant is to be questioned for the first time today. 32-year-old Salah Abdeslam is the only survivor of the terrorist command. He's considered one of the main perpetrators. He has already been convicted in Belgium. More than 130 people died in the series of attacks on November 13th in 2015. The terrorist militia Islamic State, the IS or ISIS, claimed responsibility for the crimes. So far, investigators and survivors in particular have had their say in the process, which has been going on for 5 months. A corona infection of Abdeslam and other defendants delayed the proceedings. In the series of attacks, extremists shot dead 130 people in the Bataclan concert hall in Paris, as well as in bars and restaurants. There were 350 injured. At the Stade de France, 3 suicide bombers blew themselves up during an international football match between Germany and France. Abdeslam is said to have had an explosive belt in Paris, but did not detonate it instead throwing it away in a suburb where it was later found. It is not known whether he withdrew from the attack plans or whether there was a technical problem. In any case, Abdeslam fled to Belgium and went into hiding until being tracked down in a raid in Brussels and arrested on March 18th in 2016. Like other notorious Islamists, Abdeslam grew up in the Molenbeek district of Brussels. A total of 20 suspected Islamists have now been charged. In a first statement in September last year, Abdeslam had already defended the bloodbath. "We attacked France, we targeted the population, civilians, but personally we have nothing against them," he said. When the then President François Hollande decided to attack IS, he knew that this would entail risks. As a witness in the trial, Hollande has already resisted such a representation. Most of the accused face 20 years or more in prison. 6 of them are being tried in absentia. 5 of them are believed to have died in Syria in the meantime, and 1 is imprisoned in Turkey on charges of terrorism. Abdeslam was sentenced to 20 years in prison in Belgium for shooting at police shortly before his arrest. That trial is scheduled for May. The journalist Deniz Yücel has been fined for allegedly insulting a Turkish public prosecutor. The investigation was led by the agency, which landed him in prison without charge in 2017. So the journalist Deniz Yücel has been sentenced again in Turkey. An Istanbul court imposed a fine of 7,080 Turkish lira, that's about 455 euros, on Yücel on Tuesday for insulting officials, according to court documents available to the German press agency. The court saw it as proven that Yücel insulted the public prosecutor Hasan Y in a tweet in February 2019. In it, Yücel wrote, among other things, that he could not disagree with the description of the lawyer as the stupidest public prosecutor at the Kaglayan court. The public prosecutor led the investigation that led to Yücel's arrest in 2017. The correspondent of the German newspaper Welt was detained without charge from February 2017 to February 2018 in the maximum security prison Silivri, west of Istanbul. Only after a long political tug-of-war between Ankara and Berlin was Yücel released and able to leave the country. At the same time, charges were brought. In July 2020, he was sentenced in absentia to around 2 years and 10 months in prison for terrorist propaganda for the banned Kurdish Workers' Party PKK. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.